Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So we have been talking about the state management in Flutter. So this is a topic which is little advanced topic, but it's one of the important ones, especially if you are working for a company or for a client, and the app can grow over years. Then you should know about some of these state management, and you can start with provider. But in case the provider doesn't provide you the required solution, you can try and see. Block Redux is one of the popular one, and also the block is very powerful, but it's much more complex to use compared to provider. So this is like an introduction to state management. So this was one of the topic for our course, an introduction to state management. So we also covered it. Okay. So the two remaining topic that inshallah I will discuss today, one of the topic is about performance. So Flutter has added like they have updated a lot this section about performance and optimization. So again, you can go and see the videos, like are you doing some kind of practices in programming that can reduce performance. So basically, what do you mean by performance? Performance means like whatever the app is doing, the user will not feel that the app is becoming slow. Like there is no lag. There is no lag. So this is the concept of programming, like performance, and also uh, like how much resource the app is using, how much resource it is using. Like is your app needs a lot of memory when it runs, and also the app size. Like when you download the app from the Google Play Store, it shows you the size of the app. So try to minimize the size. If you don't need some resources, don't put it as part of the asset. So the main thing is how to improve performance in terms of speed. So there are like lot of advice they give. Not necessarily everything is like suitable for you, but you can go to performance best practices. Like this chapter, you can go through them. They have added in this documentation. They have added in Flutter 3.0 around 2 months ago when they launched. 2-3 months ago, they have improved this section a lot, and like how you control the build cost. They talk about this. So for these cases, actually, the state management is important. Like using state management, you can refresh only part of the UI, not the whole UI. If the whole screen is expensive, but you are updating only part of it, then how to refresh only that part by separating that part as a different class, using a proper state management, and only refreshing that part. So this is an important. Sometimes we need to refresh only one button, but to refresh that we are set state the whole UI. So that is a costly operation. So this is one of the thing. There are others about like animations. So they inside Flutter they try to they try to optimize that, but also they have some like suggestions about how you do. Uh, Another operation, expensive operation, is like how you use clipping the objects. Like you can show a container and you can cut it according to your own like path. So this kind of operations are expensive. So you should be careful when you use them. And like like for example, when you use list, if there is a huge list, then like it's like building with the lazy builder method. There are something like long list, how you work with long list, like they have a discussion here. uh, like it's like list is coming and coming and coming. So instead of building the whole list together, how you do it like in a lazy way. Lazy way means the Flutter will build only those items which is visible in the screen. It will not build beyond that. So these kind of things you should know. So anyway, it's a long process or long discussion. Not everything is like suitable for every app, but you can have like a basic idea, or you should know that some issues are there that can affect performance. So this is a quick overview of performance in Flutter application. And actually the Android Studio provides some features to profile the performance, like how much time it needs to render a particular screen, like the memory usage and so on. So this kind of profiling you can do to improve performance. Like deferred component. Deferred component is like a very advanced feature where you can download part of the program, not the data, part of the program after user installs it. So this way you reduce the size of the app and download the code itself, part of the code once needed. So that's called deferred. Deferred means like delayed components, deferred components that you don't need now, but when you need, you will download them. So this is actually very useful feature, but they say this is like an advanced feature and so on. So you can go through this section, performance and optimization, when you have time to know some of the issues that can affect performance. And finally, the last topic for us today is deployment. Deployment means like how you release your app, how you build your app for different platforms. So for example, if I want to build and release an Android app, what are the steps I need to do? So there are actually a lot of steps for releasing the app, but once you do it, then releasing an update is very easy. But at the beginning there are a lot of steps, like for authentication, for key store, you have need to create upload key store to store it in a place, refer it inside the Gradle file, and so on. So and then you need developer account and so on. So it's like a lengthy process. But if you do it once, you have to change the Gradle file. But if you do it once for a particular app, then for the releasing of updates, new versions, oh, it's very easy. It's just kind of drag and drop, changing the version number in YAML file, creating the APK file using a command line, just copy the file in the Google Play developer account and finish. It's very quick. So, but at the beginning, yes, it takes some time. So, and be careful and read the steps from the official uh, Flutter.dev website, because sometimes they update the process. So it's good to review this process time to time to see if there are like some changes, because sometimes they make some solutions easier. Previously it was lengthy, but now they make it easier. So you have to see it, like enabling the material components. This is a new section added to this page. It was not before. It was not even the few months before. It was not there. So it's better to go through these pages time to time to see if there are any changes. If you want to do it for iOS, that's a different story. Uh, you need to use App Store Connect and Xcode. And as I mentioned before, if you want to release for Apple iOS, you need to work with Mac. If you have a Windows machine, you can only do it for Android or for web or Windows, but not for Mac, but not for iOS. If you want to release an iOS version, you must use a Mac machine, a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, whatever. But you need a Mac machine with Xcode, because you generate the like IPA file. The APK file is for Android. IPA file is for iOS. So once you generate the IPA file, you have to use Xcode to set up the account, link the Apple developer account with your app, and so on. But before you even generate the IPA file, you need to create the developer account, create their app ID, unique app ID, use that app ID inside your Flutter app, and then you can generate the IPA file. So it's a long process again, but once you do for a particular app, releasing an update again here is also very easy, and you can do it by Xcode. And recently they have added some software support to bypass opening Xcode. Let me see if there is here. No. Test flight is the way to test your applications on phone without releasing them. This one, the Apple uses test flight, but Google uses a different way. In Google, you have to you can actually directly share your APK, no problem. But in iPhone, no. In iPhone, iPad, if you share the IPA file, they will not be able to install it. So if you want to test your application before you release, you have to install test flight on your phone, and from Apple developer account, you need to invite people to test. So it's a lengthy process. Lengthy means it's not easy. Like you need to first invite him. When he accepts, then you include him in the test team. Again, send him invitation. Then when he accepts it, then it's easier. Then every time you send an update in a test flight, he will automatically get a notification that a new update came. Do you want to test it? And he can test it. But it's a very good way, because we don't want to release to users at the beginning. We want to release to some users so that they can test, and if there are some bugs, they report you, and you can fix them before releasing to the users. So please go through these steps if you are ready to release your production app. Okay. And there are also steps for releasing for Mac OS, for Linux, for Windows, and for web. For web, you can do it directly unless you are using images or like SQL database. So SQL database will not work. Local database will not work if you are releasing for web. So in that case, you have to like use the backend database. But compared to the native web development, Flutter web development is still lagging behind, but they are improving day by day. So this is a quick way of quick discussion about deployment. There are some third-party tools, so to make the delivery easier. So they have added these different tools that you can use, but it's not necessary to use one of them. You can use the process here and process here to release your app. So just giving you some guidelines and introduction to deploying, how to deploy your app to Play Stores. So that concludes all the topics that we mentioned in our brochure. Actually, we covered more. We covered more than what we have mentioned in the syllabus or the topics, and I hope you got a good introduction to Flutter, and this will help you to develop more. So I will leave now the floor to questions. If you have any questions, we can answer. For certificates, you can send your information to brother Yunus, as he mentioned in the group, if you haven't done it, so they can print your certificate, and I don't know how they will distribute, but that's his department. So if you haven't done it, please do it, so that they can uh, put your name correctly. Any comments about our training? Anything you you want to add, or you want to suggest? You can turn on your mic and you can speak, no problem.
I have a question about the management state
Yes.
management. Is the state management separated from logical code and the UI code?
No, no,
I know it's a service, right?
no. It's not actually service as a service. Actually, you write the state management code inside the UI also, because the UI files are also Dart code. Like as you can see here, this is the code for UI. This is the code for UI. But let me show you something. Like, yeah. So for example, here, this is a function for a UI, to build a UI, part of the UI. So I'm building a sliding segment, like a slider, and giving the parameters to the UI parameters are these UI parameters. And when the value change, I'm not writing the code here. I'm calling a function in the controller. This controller is given as a framework to be consumer of this UI. So if you go to this function, like this is the function that we called it from here. Look, there is no set state here. See, in this function there is no set state. We didn't write any set state. So on value changed, we just call something, because we don't know if the set state is needed or no, or what it will do. We just call the function in the controller. So in the function in the controller, it does whatever it does, and then when he decides that the UI need to be refreshed, it need to be redrawn, then he calls a function called notify listener. Notify listener means, like, it's like a calling set state, but in a more organized way. Like you say that, who is listening to me? This class was listening to me. This class, UI class, was listening to me. So anytime I say notify listener, so Flutter will notify this class, and he will call only this part, only this part. Like, so what we can have is, like, we can have consumer, inside it another consumer, inside it another consumer. So it will call the lowest, like covered listeners. So this is a kind of like arranging the code and separating the UI from the logic. But you have to write some code as part of the UI. I don't know whether this made you even more confused.
It's not really that much confusing. Is
Okay.
the control include all the classes from the UI?
No. The controller has no idea about UI. If you go back to the controller class, if you go back, it has no idea about it's see here, it's not a stateless widget or a stateful widget. It doesn't have any build method. There's no build method here. There's no build method here. Okay, so there is no build method here. It extends the change notifier. This is the coming from the provider class, provider package. Provider package, we use the provider package here. Let me show you where it is. No, provider package is here. Provider here. Provider is here, but this class is extending change notifier to have access to notify listener. Notify listener function is coming from change notifier, like to notify the listener. But this class has no idea, like who is the UI. He just implements the business logic. So this class can be written by someone who has no idea about what you are doing in the UI. You just tell him that, okay, I will give you this information, do some this thing, return me this value. You just tell him this. So this can be a programmer who has no idea about what UI is looking. You need to tell him that, okay, I need 5 functions. I need 5 functions. Okay, and these functions will do this thing. It will take this information and it will do this thing and return me this thing. That's all. The UI designer, what he will do, he will consume this controller. He will consume this controller by writing that I am a consumer of what, of the controller, and then he build, using this controller he builds the UI, and from the UI he calls the function of the controller. So the controller, the one who wrote controller, he has no idea how UI is looking. He has no idea. He just write the business logic, assuming that this will be the input and what output he will give, what output he will return. That's all. Is it clear now? More clear?
Yeah, yes, it's clear. How can the controller tell the difference between data type, like which data and how to process that data?
Oh, this you need to decide when you write the controller. You need to decide that, okay, I have a function that will take a list of integers and it will return a double. So you have to like plan like this. So if there are 2 programmers, one of them is designing the UI, the other one is designing the business logic. So the UI designer will say, okay, I will give you a list of int. Assume that you will get a list of int and you will return me the sum of it, the integer, the sum of it. That's all. So the programmer who will write the controller, he will write a function which takes a list of int, does his code, returns the value. That's all. So you need to, like, if you are the same programmer who is writing the UI and who is writing the controller, then it's easy. Whenever you need a function, just write the function in the controller. But if you are separate, then what you can do, you make a like an agreement that we have this interface. Interface means this meeting point. You give me these functions and tell me what input you need and what output I need. I will tell you, like this.
I think it's clear.
Okay,
Just
great.
wanted to understand the concept, which is
Yes,
the most important thing.
true. And if you really implement it, just go through the page in flutter.dev as I showed you. That page is very good actually. That page is very good. If you just go step by step their examples, try to understand it. Things will be crystal clear. You will understand crystal clear how it works. Any other question? Okay. So since there are no other question, we will conclude our session, and the videos will be available for you to see whenever you need. And if in some cases I have to remove the access, I will always let you know so that you can download the videos. Otherwise they will be available inshallah in the shared folder, and I'm also available. So in case you have some questions or queries when you practice more, you can always ask me inshallah, and I will do my best to answer your questions or clarify your questions. So I will stop the recording.